Welcome to Play PSVR 2, the podcast. That's right. I'm too excited because 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 makes me aroused because Resident 4 is 2 plus 2. I'm aroused. Alex, are you aroused? Or more appropriately, how aroused are you from a range of 0 to 4?
I think if I had to describe myself in one word, it would be thorny. I'm very thorny this evening because of Resident Evil 4. Also, Adam, you mentioned the number 2. 2 is also the number of podcast episodes that we released this past week because...
That's right. And go ahead, get the beans out, big boy.
Let's get the beans.
Alex had one job. He was supposed to edit the podcast since we've been doing Gaming is in Session stuff. And I've been doing Gaming is in Session. He has been doing the podcast, and he's been doing a garbage job. Because of that, he has to eat a bean. I did everything. So the podcasts that you've listened to the past week are because of me, not because of Alex. So I'm going to spin, and he's going to eat beans. Oh, dude, it's right between dishwater and barf. Like, it's literally right down the middle. Want me to
How many beans am I eating tonight, Adam? I know we got beans galore for me. How many are we eating tonight?
I mean, possibly 2. I have a little game, and I'll go ahead and get into this. First of all, Gamer Juice. I have Gross Gus's dinosaur dung. Jungle Gym special right here.
I'm just gonna grab a barf, Adam. I deserve it. This is
just
me.
Chocolate.
This is me taking it on myself.
Oh, dude, you deserve it. I wasn't gonna tell you to do it, but you deserve it. You didn't put out 2 episodes. I know it's barf. Yep. Welcome to the party, Alex. Welcome to the podcast. What's your?
This isn't about Gamer Juice, but it's water to choke this down.
Ew, seltzer water. Oh, the seltzer may make it worse, or it could make it drastically better. It's hard to tell. I bet you wish you had some dinosaur dung, huh? Do you wish you had dinosaur dung? The barf is so nasty.
The seltzer water was a bad move because it makes me burp, which you can imagine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would rather not drink. Do that and stop drinking. Wow, that's rough. Here's the thing. Speaking of me being aroused, that goes into this.
Wait. My Gamer Juice this evening, Gentleman Jack.
You said it was seltzer water.
No, I said that wasn't my Gamer Juice. My Gamer Juice this evening is the last bit of Gentleman Jack. We're going to start this podcast off with a shot. It's holiday season.
I don't even know what Gentleman Jack is. You're certainly not a gentleman.
It's like an extra smooth Jack Daniels.
And you're not a gentleman, and your name isn't. Holy crap! He freaking chugged that. Holy, that was like way more than a shot, right?
That is about a shot and a half. That's good. We're ready to roll. It's a celebration podcast, Adam. It's a celebration podcast.
Nuts. Okay, as we celebrate again, I love Resident Evil. I love VR. I love horror. Like I said, we're thorny. And in being thorny, I've got a quiz for you, Alex. Yeah. If you get... Oh, gosh. I want to say 3, but I feel like it's unfair. So I should maybe say 2. If you get 2 of these correct, then I'll eat a bean. If you don't, then you got to eat another bean. And the reason I also hesitate is one of them is a straight up gimme. So here we go. Alex, what do you call it when you gingerly place one's testicles over a person's eyeballs or potentially in their mouth?
Oh, if it was just the eyeballs, I thought it was the Arabian goggles. But if it's just on the eyeballs and mouth, that's teabagging.
That is a teabag. I've never heard of the Arabian goggles. And the fact that you even knew that term actually makes me scared because you're about
to eat a bean because I get these right. Yeah,
that is real bad. Okay, what do you call it? What is the act of fiddling with your partner's nipples like the radio dials?
Oh goodness, I feel like I knew this one.
You definitely did, or you should.
Oh. Like their radio dials?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to.
Weak.
Oh, tweaking. Yeah, tweaking.
No. It's called Tune In Tokyo.
Okay. Wait. How many do I got to get right before I eat a bean?
Oh, if you get 2 right, I eat a bean. You only need one more.
Okay.
I mean, I made it easy on you. I mean, come on. Okay. What do you call it when a girl, while you and the girl are spooning and she farts on your wee wee?
A Dutch oven?
Richard. Oh, this one's a little nasty. I apologize, but what do you call it when someone places a taco in one's rectum before eating
it? What?
What do you call it when someone places a taco in a rectum and then eats it?
And is it in the rectum or is it like in the butt cheeks?
I mean, the thing said rectum. Say butt cheeks. Who cares?
How do you fit a taco? I don't know how you fit a taco in there. There's so many things.
I must can imagine be like the butt in general.
I feel like you just spread the butt cheeks and you put the taco right there, and then you just.
Is this going to help you answer? I want to talk about Resident Evil 4.
I was instead of a whole enchilada, it'd be an enchilada whole.
It's a spicy gringo. And then the final one. Okay, and this one I'm gonna help you.
Adam, what newsletter are you subscribed to?
Listen. What do you call? And this one is also just absolutely disgusting. But I'm sorry, I can't help it. What do you call it when you put a saran wrap over your partner's face and then you poo on them? And to help you, Alex, the phrase, the tagline, the subtitle to this name would be, they feel the heat, but they won't eat the meat. That should help you answer it. You don't know? It's called a vegetarian hot lunch. A vegetarian hot lunch. Because they don't eat the meat.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Oh, I may have to take a break.
It's more. I just want the listeners to know I'm laughing less at the thing, but more at Adam's just complete immature addiction to these kind of jokes.
Vegetarian hot lunch.
I was gonna call it the Susan Sarandon, but no. Okay, yeah, that's.
Hot lunch. You could do our fan shout out. I compose myself.
Well, Adam composed himself. We got a lovely email. You know, if you email us, we're gonna probably bring it up on the podcast. We got this great email earlier today, maybe yesterday. I've been listening to you guys on Spotify for a year, so there we go. We don't get Spotify metrics. I'm glad somebody's using Spotify. I feel consistently entertained as well as informed by your content. Thank you very much for your hard work. I'll never stop tuning in.
They love the vegetarian hot lunches. This is what people come to the podcast for.
Play PSVR 2, the podcast, where Adam opens up his email and just reads his latest email joke of the day. I'll never stop tuning into your hilarious podcast. Conversation you guys have always broadened my understanding and respect for the VR industry as a whole. Adam sounds like Patton Oswalt.
Okay.
From our listener, Jerry. We're not going to say your whole name, but thank you, Jerry, so much for sending that email.
The roasts are over. The roast box competition is over. You didn't need to go there, Jerry. Patton Oswalt? I mean, maybe I shouldn't be offended that I sound like him, but if I look like him, I don't want to be anything like him.
He looks like Rick Moranis. He sounds like Patton Oswalt. That's Adam for you. That is Adam for you.
Then why am I not famous? That's bullcrap. I hate that. Okay, you didn't get 2 correct, Alex. You gotta eat another bean.
You know,
I'll try to be sure that you don't take a spicy gringo here.
Whiskey plus barf plus seltzer water.
It's rotten eggs. You got the worst one and then the second worst one. Oh,
look at how yellow that one is.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Although that may be good. That might be a buttered popcorn.
No, that's rotten as hell.
Oh
my god.
Now we know why you guys listened. We know why you tuned in. It's in the title, it's in the intro. Alex is going to just probably end up barfing both rotten eggs and his barf. Well, I'm going to talk about Resident Evil 4. So I've never played this game. Obviously, I was stoked. Resident Evil 7 was great. Resident Evil 8 was great. I assumed this would also be great. Listen to the last podcast. We go over what our expectations are. I am in chapter 9 of 13. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to talk about any plots. I'm not going to talk very generalities here. So you can listen without spoilers. And so as a recap and impression, that's how far I am. Alex had to review a couple games he's going to cover: Arizona Sunshine 2, what's it, Ancient Dungeon?
Ancient Dungeon, and then Arashi. The new
so that's in the second segment. So I played most of Resident Evil, and he's already played the game. He just hasn't played it in VR.
I've played a bit of Resident Evil. Yeah, I played RE4. Of course,
how far have you gotten in? Second chapter? Third chapter?
I'm like midway through the second chapter, I think.
Okay. So here's the thing, Alex. Do you want the good news or the bad news? Or do you want to go first? I know everything you're going to say is positive, and then I could talk about some negative and then jump into my positive. That way we do the sandwich approach: good, bad, good.
Here, I'll start with the good. I'll go into some of the stuff that I think might be bad. I'll let you lead in with some of the stuff that you think is bad. And then you can bring us home with the good. How's that sound?
I like that. All right.
I mean, of course, we all know this is just like probably Game of the Year now, even though Game of the Year awards are done. Shout out to Resident Evil Village for winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards. No brainer there. Or Game of the Year for VR. No brainer there. But I'm glad it's getting recognition. So Resident Evil 4 Remake. I'm a fan of Resident Evil 4. I've played it multiple times on the old version. I played it on the Quest 2 when it came out on the Quest 2. That was super fun, but it was like the PS2 version in VR. Crazy easy. And then I didn't play the remake when it came out because I just hoped against hope that it was going to be getting a VR mode. And yes, it came. We got a VR mode for it, baby. A full VR mode, whole game in VR. It is exactly like Resident Evil Village in some sense, where it's like, the whole game, no compromises made. The whole game is done in VR. Now, there's new things here, like there's the takedowns and stuff like that Leon would do, and you actually have options. You can do that in VR, like first-person mode, or you can have it cut back to a cutscene and watch that happen, and then cut back into VR, which is actually the mode that I chose, Adam. Where if I do one of these cinematic, kicks, or do like a stealth kill, which is a new addition to the Resident Evil 4 remake. It'll cut out, I'll watch it happen, and then it zooms back into VR mode. And I actually appreciate that, because I thought it was jarring in Resident Evil 8 trying to keep track of where my hands are supposed to go in a certain cutscene and stuff like that. The game looks absolutely amazing. It looks just like I would expect it to look in the flat version. It's amazing the visual fidelity we can get on PSVR 2 when the developers leverage all the tools that are available to them. The developers said they spent a year making this mode as an addition to Resident Evil 4. Apparently, it's already topped the list of top best-selling PSVR 2 games, which I'm glad to hear. So maybe this is a sign to developers of, like, if you put the effort into it, it's going to take you about a year to take this extreme AAA game, this huge big-budget game, one extra year, and you get all of these PSVR 2 owners. I'm pretty sure every single PSVR 2 owner is probably going to buy Resident Evil 4 Remake, right? That's just an easy way to tack on an extra million sales in the copies of your game. So, but yeah, it looks absolutely brilliant. The game, of course, handles brilliantly. The controls has all the options you need. There's like a sit-down version. There's a stand-up version. That's amazing. The gunplay is great. There's manual reload, but there's also options to make things easier for you if you want. You can turn Resident Evil 4 when it first came out. The laser sight was like required, right? That because you're playing and you're aiming and stuff like that. In this, it's off by default. You can still turn it on if you want to. So that was a difference, because I think on the Quest version, the laser sight was like had to be turned, or it was already on, or something along those lines. And then, my first time playing through Resident Evil 4 Remake, I was wondering what was different. There's a lot different. I mean, the layouts of some areas seem almost identical. The enemy behavior is not identical. Like I said, there's stealth kills now where there wasn't before. The knife plays a bigger role. You can do parries and stuff like that. The knives are kind of consumable too, so they have like a durability that wears out, which is an interesting mechanic added into that. The headshots are less less guaranteed, which makes sense for a VR mode. In Resident Evil 4 for like GameCube, right? A headshot was almost like you line it up, you shoot, you're going to get a headshot, their head's going to pop. This, it's still like 2 or 3 shots before it'll happen necessarily, but you get the kicks and stuff like that. That first level, for people who've played Resident Evil 4 before, when you first go into the village and all the people are coming at you and you're waiting for that church bell to ring, that first level had some nice Easter eggs. Like back in the
First
day
of all,
when you go into.
spoiler. If anyone hadn't played it, you didn't know.
Oh,
I didn't
people.
know.
Okay.
I died like 4 times right there because I thought I was supposed to kill them all. I didn't know I was supposed to just
You gotta
waste
kill 'em all.
time.
Yeah, okay. Spoilers for 5 minutes into the game.
That's
Okay.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. It would have
yeah.
ruined it. You don't want to know anything about this game.
Let me
Freaking
just
Alex
say-
and his big mouth.
If you're playing Resident Evil 4 remake for the first time and you've played the old ones in the past, there are surprises. Things that you thought were like clever strategies to help you out are not necessarily going to work, or they're going to be different. So I'll just say that right there. But the gunplay is great. The movement is great. The gameplay is great. The visuals are great. I don't really have anything bad to say. I think the one bad thing maybe, and this isn't even a problem for me, but that I've heard people talk about, particularly Shafe Dog highlighted this to me, is there's not much interactivity in VR, right? Like I see a bucket on the ground, I can't quite pick it up. You know, stuff like that. For me personally, I don't really mind that too much, but it does set this a little bit apart from games like Half-Life Alyx, where everything can kind of be picked up and juggled and stuff like that, right? Personally, I don't care. That takes me out of the VR experience when I'm constantly like fiddling with like toys and stuff like that. Like I don't need that. I want to play the game part. I want to play what you want me to do. But that's kind of all I have to say about it right now, Adam. I made it through Chapter 1, thrilling experience, and I'm on to Chapter 2, having a great time.
Okay. Yeah, you really didn't have much bad to say. I didn't anticipate you would. So that's why I'm going to come at the rear because I do. So we'll get into it. I actually believe this is my least favorite of the VR games.
Of all VR games or of all the Resident
just the
Evil
Resident
VR?
Evil ones. Just the Resident Evil
Okay,
ones.
okay.
Yeah, of course.
Interesting hot take, Adam.
Yes. And well, we'll get into it. That's a whole separate discussion. So here's the thing. Number one, despise the cutscenes. Absolutely hate them. All the cutscenes in the game are in flat mode. They're not in VR, like in Resident Evil 8. Now, granted, one of the things we didn't necessarily rag on them about, but we were like, Resident Evil 8, the cutscenes were jank. You could see your arms, like you could see inside your forearm. Like there was some jank to them. They weren't perfect. They weren't super polished. And we thought maybe they would clean that up or maybe it would be the same. All they did is just it's the same cutscene. I'm assuming that's in the real game, but you see it like you're in movie theater mode. I hate that.
It does give me motion sickness, actually. Like I was surprised. I start to feel a little bit queasy when those kick in. I think that's a me thing because like my screen's like looking down for whatever reason.
Yeah, that happens all the time. I don't feel queasy. It takes you. It ruins the atmosphere. It ruins the immersion. It looks lazy. And I mean, in one way, this is weird to complain about, but it gives you a time to collect yourself because you're like, okay, I know I don't need to do anything. I know something is about to happen. So it eliminates when you're in VR, like in Resident Evil 8, a cutscene happened, but you may not even realize I'm in a cutscene because the world's still 3D. You're still in VR.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's like terrifying.
That,
and here,
to jump in, that's a really good point because in like Resident Evil 8, right, Lady Dimitrescu suddenly grabs you or something like that, and then you for a second are like, "Am I safe? Am I not safe? I don't know.
Do I need to start punching her, grabbing my knife? Like, you don't know."
Yeah, but in this, when it cuts to the cinematic mode for the cutscene, you don't know. So that's a really interesting point. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think the combat is a lot clunkier. The pistol. The knife, the things that all of your weapons, they're too far forward. They're not like when imagine you're in VR, like you're actually there in the game, they're right up against your chest, right? But these things in this game are too far forward. And the issues with that, I've had 2 main issues. One, it's difficult to grab the gun when they're that far forward if you're not looking at it. So if I'm trying to multitask, grab the knife and grab my pistol, and I have my eyes on the enemy, often I grab the gun behind me. I grab a grenade. I don't grab anything. That's horribly annoying. Resident Evil 8 didn't have that. Another thing is there are moments, no spoilers, but there are moments where you need to interact with someone in front of you. And sometimes it's in very high stress situations where you need to rush. And so how you interact with them is there's like a little white dot. You hit R1 and like reach out to them. And you can't do that, or it's very difficult to do that because again, there's crap being flung around you and enemies chasing you and you're in a rush. So you reach out, you hit R1, but you grab the pistol instead of interacting with the person. And then you're like, get the heck out of the gun. And it causes problems. I didn't get any of that clunk in Resident Evil 8. I know there's the automatic reload. I don't use that because I feel like, this is Resident Evil, man. I want the full experience, but I feel it gets clunkier. I also really, this is a me thing. I dislike the change in gameplay philosophy. I really don't like the idea you get into an area and guess what? You have 69 guys running at you and you got to survive and kill them all at one time. I would rather, like in Resident Evil 8, where there were little like masses of people, but it wasn't anything like this. I really liked Resident Evil 7's gameplay better than any of them, actually, where there were less enemies, but there's less ammo. You don't know when they're going to pop up. And when they do pop up, you feel like you want to die. Like it's just the whole time you're on edge and you're terrified. One reason I don't think this game is as scary to me, or really honestly scary at all, Atmosphere is wonderful, incredible game, but I'm not scared, is because there's so much action. I just assume around the corner there's going to be an enemy, and there is. Like there aren't any moments. There's no suspense. I know the action is coming. Again, that's personal. That's the way the game is intended. So if you like that type of gameplay, you're going to like this probably better than the other two. So that's personal preference.
And that's one of the things I highlighted too about Resident Evil 4 was like it was a foray of Resident Evil away from the survival horror. Like all Resident Evils leading up to it were survival horror with increasing levels of action. This was like an action game with survival horror elements, and then Resident Evil 7 came out, and it suddenly became a horror game with some action elements, and then Resident Evil 8 was a horror game with more action elements. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it is personal preference. Do you want a scary game with action, or do you want an action game with some like slight scares to it? I think Resident Evil 4 is more of that action game with some slight scares to it, whereas Resident Evil 8 is like a horror game with action inside of it.
Yeah. Then my last thing is it's not scary. I don't know if I've been scared this whole time. I've never had a jump scare. I've never had like a visceral response. Now, some of this, I think it could be debatable. Is it because I'm becoming more numb to it? Where in Resident Evil 7, that was the first Resident Evil I've played in VR. That's the first like terrifying VR game that we've had. So obviously the first time you experience something, it's going to be more powerful. Or so am I getting more desensitized to it? Or is this game really not as scary? And that, I think that's a debate. I don't know the correct answer, but I don't find this scary really at all. Now,
I think just to that point again, yeah, this was definitely not necessarily a scary game. I mean, look at the stuff that you get, right? Like, you get an insane amount of guns. You get an insane amount of ammunition is not hard to come by, right? There's none of that scarcity that you're worrying about. If you need more ammunition, you can craft more. You can buy more. It's pretty easy to come by. And the variety of weapons kind of, implores you to use a bunch of different weapons, use all the ammunition you can. It's, in the early Resident Evil games, you would get a rocket launcher. After you beat the game 2 or 3 more times, then it's like, oh, I can go through the game and just like have fun blasting enemies. In this game, it's like right out of the gate, you're encouraged. Like, this is a blast the enemies type game. So in some sense, it's almost like a sort of scary first-person shooter.
Yeah. So those are all the negative things I have to say about it. I feel like but with all those being said, don't get me wrong. I am thoroughly enjoying the game. There is a lot that it does right. First, I hate boss fights. I've always hated boss fights. I just think they're stupid. I don't like them, but they have good variety in this game. There are differ in the actual bosses, the strategies, and then the gameplay of fighting them. I think it does exceedingly well with that to the point where I mean, normally a boss I have to fight, depending on which one, 3, 4 times to like get it because you got to kind of learn. But it's not annoying. They each have their strategies. It's not bad. I like those. You mentioned wonderful graphics. I would say just as good as Resident Evil 8. Same, well, great graphics. I love the collectibles. I always like collectibles. They've got these little dolls that you got to shoot. There's 16 of them. There's a little game that you can get charms for your briefcase. There are these gems and these items that you can go back and search for, and they're kind of like hidden, and then you can sell those and little things like that you would think are stupid. I love, man. I really do. I love
the blue medallions. Yeah.
Yep. The tracking, perfect. Again, we talk about these games, and I'm like, Light Brigade, freaking the tracking sucks. This game, no issues. I don't care if the battery is low. I don't care if the battery is fully maxed. I don't care if I'm facing toward the TV, to the light, toward the back, if I'm on the ground, where I'm at. Tracking is perfect. Love it. The knife play, holy crap. I love it. The parrying, the stealth, just the stabbing, really fun. Now, personally, do I wish that there would be no durability factor? Of course. Do I miss having an endless barrage of knives to throw at enemies like in Resident Evil 8? Yeah, but I love the knife play. Knife play is pretty sweet, big time. I mentioned that, it's not that scary, but one thing it does well is it's one coherent story and plot that makes sense. The other Resident Evils, Resident Evil 7, I felt was like a scary, you're in these guys' house, then it turns into like a monster game, and I'm like, what? Resident Evil 8 was just a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff that they just mushed together, which in a way is cool, and you get different environments. But by the end, I was like, it seemed like they just had to make crap up to elongate the game for some reason. This is one coherent, actual plot that, at least to this point, everything makes perfect sense. I like that. Like it's like a normal game. And then, ultimately, I think Capcom did it again. I think it's a top 2 game in VR. It's just, do you like Resident Evil 8 or do you like Resident Evil 7? Or 4, sorry. I'm putting, and we'll hop into here, the issue, Resident Evil 7 obviously doesn't have the new technology. So I think by default, that is the worst one. But if it had the new technology, for me, that would be number 1. So for you, Alex, the little bit that you've played, how would you rank these? Assuming, let's say they all were on PSVR 2. How would you rank them?
Yeah, that's a tough call. Again, I haven't played through all of Resident Evil 4. I don't know where it might fall short of my expectations. But for me personally, I loved the action of Resident Evil 4 more than I loved the horror elements of Resident Evil 7.
Because you're a wimp.
Because I'm a wimp.
You're a hot Richard, yes.
I'm a hot Richard, yeah. I can't, I don't want to eat that meat. So I'm expecting Resident Evil 4 is going to be like my big winner. Now, your question about Resident Evil 7 is a really good one. If Resident Evil 7, got the beautifying treatment and was brought up to level with Resident Evil 8, I have a feeling that would be a really monumental game. Resident Evil 7 was certainly scarier than 8, and it was kind of groundbreaking. Okay, there's that one area in Resident Evil 8 that's scarier than anything else I've seen in Resident Evil games, that dollhouse section.
Yeah.
But aside from that, Resident Evil 7, walking through the Baker house was one of the most unsettling, horrifying experiences of my life. That with like the full VR, PSVR 2 treatment, I think the ranking's probably going to end up being Resident Evil 4, number 1, Resident Evil 7, number 2. Resident Evil 8 is like trying to mix both of those together in terms of action and scares. And it sounds bad that I'm ranking it number 3, but no, I think it's great. So it's a very tight race.
I mean, honestly, it's probably, if you look at all the VR games on PlayStation Virtual Reality, both 1 and 2, they're the top 3, right? It's just what order do you have them? Yeah. And I think that's very fair. Yeah, so you mentioned that they were discussing, hey, there could be more Resident Evils coming. I've never played a Resident Evil game. I played 2 because you told me a game sucked, but I played it in flat mode, obviously. Mm-hmm. So what Resident Evil that you've played would you like to see come next?
So my question to you, Adam, we'll talk about it after my selection here, is if Resident Evil 2 was remade in VR, do you think you'd enjoy it? But just think about it for a second. For me personally, I thought about this. There's Code Veronica. That's a fun one that I've played most of, but I haven't beaten it. That would be an interesting one to see a remake of, right? Because that was kind of stuck on the PlayStation 2 and Dreamcast. There's Resident Evil 0, which has mostly been ignored for a long time. I think that would be nice to kind of give that some limelight and bring that back to the front, make people revisit that. But I think, honestly, if we're talking about a game that's being remade and then brought into the VR treatment, I think it has to be Resident Evil, the first one, right? The Spencer Mansion. The very first game. That's an environment we all want to live in as opposed to just see. It's a map that's burned into our memories after having played the game so many times. Resident Evil 1, give it a real remake with the new RE engine and put it in VR. That's something that's just going to be absolutely insane. Might not be as scary. I'm sure they'll make it scarier when they do this to it. But it's just a place that I want to be in VR that I haven't been able to be in VR yet.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think your question 2, I think, might be all right. I mean, there were some boss fights that I hated in Resident Evil 2. Like, I truly despised. The thing is, though, sometimes things are easier in VR than they are in flat mode. So that one boss where I've even mentioned it before, where you have to run onto a platform, pull a lever just at the right time, the storage or the crane thing hits him, then he gets back up, you got to run around and then do it again. Flat mode, it was really hard. I feel like in VR, it would actually be easier because you're there and you have more of a tactile like pursuit and you can actually do the things with your hands. So I think it would be all right. I think you're right. Resident Evil 1 started off. Imagine how much better it could be seeing and being in that environment. And people like doing that. I mean, it's a start of the franchise. That would be a good place to start. I think that would also get more people to buy and play VR and being like, oh, I don't have VR and okay, I didn't play Resident Evil 4, maybe. I don't know. Probably everyone did. But if they didn't, they'd be like, oh, I remember Resident Evil. And those graphics were awful, right? Like remake, some people could argue, I'm just going to play the remake on PS5. But if there's only Resident Evil in VR, and that's the only remake of it, I don't know if that's true or not, then that's going to be like the ultimate Resident Evil that you got to play because the other one's just so clunky and old. And I remember people making fun of almost how bad it was because it was hard to move and it was hard to shoot people. And it was, I mean, it's a PlayStation game. So what are you going to do? But I agree. I think I would take Resident Evil. Any of them that's scary. I like the scarier ones better. I mean, a Resident Evil 7, I remember being just constantly terrified. I was just like, I don't want to go in there. Please don't. And of course I had to.
Even when you had like in the later levels, when you have like a machine gun, you're like, I don't want to see these enemies anymore. I'm done with being scared. Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Any final impressions before we end the segment? And then you have a lot of games to talk about next time, buddy. Yeah, no, final impressions. I'm looking forward to getting done with the games. Not that they're bad, getting done with the games that I'm kind of reviewing right now, just so I can dive in whole hog on Resident Evil 4. What a freaking treat. The first year of PSVR 2, we get Resident Evil Village in VR and Resident Evil 4 Remake in VR. I couldn't ask for more from this headset, and I know a lot of people think that there's not much. I get it, but man, 2 absolute game of the year, game of the generation quality games in VR with no compromises. This is just such a treat. And we're lucky to live in this timeline for PSVR 2, certainly. Yeah,
I think it makes it worth it. These 2 games alone, I mean, they're the top 2 games. They're absolutely friggin', they're impeccable. They're pieces of art. I love them. Like I said, I was low down on PSVR 2, but then two of these bad boys, you can't beat it. Love it. And I hope you're loving the podcast. We're taking a break. Remember, don't have a vegetarian hot lunch. Come back to us with your face clean and cold. We don't want you to go get a Fat Richard or Spicy Gringo. We do want you to get a little play PSVR 2. We'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to segment 2 of Play PSVR 2, the podcast. Thank you for coming back to listening to some auditory hot lunch where you get the heat and the meat. Yeah, baby. And speaking of hot meat, Alex, you've been playing games, son. Most time I make fun of you because you don't play crap, but you're like 2 Chainz. You're off the hook. You played like 4 different games this week. What do you want to start with? I don't know if you want to start with news or one of these games getting under your skin and you need to unleash yourself.
We're going to start the news, Adam, and then we'll segue into some games because it is, you know what it is? It's AAA week, and I'll explain what that means. But right out of the gate, bam, Ancient Dungeons got shadow dropped last week. I'll talk about that a bit later because that's one of the games I played, but that's some news people need to look into. A game got released. Nobody knew it was going to come out, and it came out. And guess what? It's not bad. No Man's Sky got another update, Adam. I know you and I, neither one of us has dove into No Man's Sky.
I'm sick of hearing about this game. Drop it. Make another game, dude. I'm not going to play this.
They did announce another game.
Good. I'll play that one.
The Earth-sized one.
Unearthed? Unearthing Mars?
Unearthing? Unearthing Mars. Oh, Adam. Anyways, No Man's Sky got an update. It already looked good. They added extra updated foveated renderings, so now the particle effects are considered in the just what are they doing? How much money have they made where they're just making this game better for no reason? Adam, the big news, Vertigo 2 release got postponed. I don't know if you can say anything about it. I don't know much about it.
I don't care. It needed it. It needed pushback. We started to play it. It had big time issues, folks. Big time issues. So I'm glad they pushed it back. It really needed it. I was going to ream it, but now I can't ream it. I got to wait till they fix it, and now I probably can't ream it. Man, I love a good reaming. When I can just open up wide and take the ream or give the ream, oh my gosh, I love it. And I took notes on my phone as I was playing the game. I mean, I was locked and loaded, baby. It was going to be a hot lunch all over the place, but no saran wrap. But unfortunately, I don't know what you guys are going to get because I have to wait till they fix the game. But it may be disappointing. It was needed. Crossfire, Sierra Squad. Alex, you and I still love this. This game is awesome.
It just keeps giving.
Yeah. It really is. A physical release by Perp coming out. I don't know if I'm going to do this. I know you like physical games. In some genres, I like physical games, but I don't have a PlayStation physical game collection. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not res quality quite yet, so I don't think I'm going to buy it, but I'm kind of glad it's getting a release.
Yeah, there's just something, to me, it's like a trophy almost of like, this game is so good, I'm willing to shell out the extra cash just to like throw the developers some money, or I just want to have it on my shelf. I want to see that there, and it brings some joy to me. So I think I just feel like a Crossfire physical copy would just look cool, which is a dumb reason to spend that much money on a game, but it's a good game. It's a game worthy of a physical release. This one, I'm super excited about, Adam. Ultra Wings. Ideally coming this year. I feel like it's not going to happen, but we always get surprised by the QA
Hey,
process with Sony.
developers, this came from BitPlanet. I mean, they said, dog. They said.
Yeah. Ideally this year. I mean, Ultra Wings is amazing.
why would they say, yeah, our plan is coming this year if like they knew it wasn't going to happen?
But
right?
they never know it's not going to happen. It's like you basically submit the game to QA process for Sony, then you just wait. You just wait. From what I gather.
Okay, but here's the thing. I'm curious on your take. We know that your time is limited. We know that normally you like games that are a bit shorter in length, right? You don't want these super long games because you just can't finish them. They said that the single player campaign takes 20 plus hours. And then if you go back and do collectibles and blah, 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 like at least double that. Are you worried that, like, is that too long for you? Or are you glad it's that long?
I mean, I guess I'm glad it's that long, right? People are going to like that. Ultra Wings isn't a game that I played it like complete. It's certainly not like a story focused game. I just want to get in the plane and fly around the island.
But if it's 20 plus hours, could there be a plot? I mean, how are you coming up with 20 hours worth of stuff?
There's like different missions and stuff you do. Like you're trying to do stunts or you got to fly through the rings.
20 hours worth?
I think the first game had something pretty good like that. Like there was a lot going on in the first game. You get like 4 different airplanes and you got to learn they all fly differently. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Anyways, it's going to be so great. These guys have been cooking it for so long. My hopes can't. I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt because my hopes are really high for it.
Yeah, you've been burned before, mainly by women, but you've been burned. Tell me about this Thumper sequel.
Thumper pseudo sequel. Now, if you watch the trailers, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it is just a straight up sequel to Thumper. But I don't think it's the same development studio. But it is like the same director, art director, and designer or something like that. You watch the trailers, it looks a lot like Thumper, but it almost looks like a Thumper version of like that Snake game, right? Where you like get longer and you can't touch yourself.
Yeah,
but it's like
I have a long snake. I've dealt with that my whole life. It's horrible.
Yeah, I know, but it's fun to play with, right?
yeah. Looking at the trailer, I don't even know what the gameplay is. Like,
I'm gonna tell you right now,
I couldn't tell what is this.
It's Stunt Kite Masters, baby. It is a Stunt Kite Masters gameplay. Sitting there weaving that thing around in the air. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Stunt Kite Masters plus Thumper. Now, I don't think it's officially been announced for PSVR 2. I think the trailers at the very beginning shows like a hand looking like it's grabbing something. That makes it look like a VR imitation of a hand. I imagine there's going to be VR support. Why wouldn't there be for this kind of game?
So this is nothing but just you're guessing. Why is this even in the episode?
They said it's VR. And the Thumper
people,
yeah, the Thumper people have always been supportive of VR, and it was just announced at the Game Awards. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm just trying to get you hyped, Adam.
I have Resident Evil. I don't need to be hyped.
That's gonna last you like 2 more weeks, and then you're gonna be like, "Where's my AAA games, mommy? Where's my triple?"
That's right. Exactly. I can't wait. Where's my Astrobot? Give me Astrobot. Okay. Speaking of games, you keep messaging me about Ancient Dungeon. I don't know this game. I've never heard of this game. I've never seen a trailer for this game. I wish you'd stop talking to me about this game. Why? Why did you buy it? And why is it worth playing?
You're inviting me to talk to you about it even more. Adam, that's right. This is AAA week, and not because Resident Evil came out. This is AAA week because this week we're talking about Ancient Dungeon, Arashi, and Arizona Sunshine 2. That's right. 3 games beginning with A. I played them all, bitches. We're going to talk about them right now. Ancient Dungeon, 1999, came out last week, made by a company called Maze Theory. Now, Adam, this is a game, straight up Minecraft graphics, right? Get your high hopes out of your head. It's not looking like...
that's already a big knock.
It's not looking like Resident Evil. But here's the deal. What if I told you it was procedurally generated? What if I told you that there was melee combat? What if I told you there are perks and bonuses? And
it sounds like another Crystal Rift. What you just described is Crystal Rift.
Yeah, it's a roguelike, Adam. It's a roguelike, Adam. But here's the deal. I say this all the time, but you never listen to me. It's not about how the graphics look. It's about that game feel. that VR umami, baby. This game feels good. And here's the selling point I'm going to let you in on, Adam. First of all, this game is giving me hardcore Vampire Survivors vibes, just in terms of the aesthetics and the feeling and like the list of all the things to unlock and stuff. So right out of the gate, I'm hooked. I'm into it. Number two, your first starting weapon is you get a sword and you get a knife. And you know what that knife is used for? It's for you to throw it at the enemies and then hit the button and it comes whipping back. So you get two knife throws for one action. And then you have this big old sword you slap dudes around with. Listen, the game is simple, but it's simple, good fun. And I am loving playing it. I almost wish it came out not right now so that I could focus attention on it. I'll be coming back around to it when I finish Resident Evil, but it's really nice. It feels really good. It's fluid, it's smooth, it's crisp, it's not glitchy. There's even climbing segments in there that is some of the best climbing I've had in VR. So I mean, this is a preview almost, like preliminary review. Highly recommended. It's great. For $20 too, you can't go wrong.
Dude, this does not. I mean,
you can't go by just the footage.
I'm looking at the gameplay. It doesn't look like a $20 game, dog.
I say it every time. Just in time incorporated type stuff going on here where the graphics are minimal.
Don't you do that. Just in time incorporated had charm and humor, and
this does too.
It was clever. This like it may be a fun game. Yeah, obviously I've never played it, but it doesn't look clever. It just looks, oh, guess what? It's another dungeon crawler. Cool. It's Crystal Rift for the PSVR 2, which is fine. Some people get down with that. Good for you. I'm glad you like it. But I'm going to be playing man games. I'm going to be slitting people's throats. I'm going to be going 169 miles per hour in my Hyundai fast car. I'm going to be still deleting Demio because it's such trash while you play Ancient Dungeons.
All right. Adam's going to be playing with Mim while I play with Ancient Dungeons. Moving on, Adam. Next game on the docket is Arashi. This is a game. I forget the full name of the game. Arashi. You know what I'm talking about. It came out on PSVR 1 late in the life cycle of PSVR 1. So I didn't play it. Adam didn't play it. Well, they remade it. I shouldn't say remade it. Remastered it for the PSVR 2.
Castles of Sin.
And the Castles of Sin.
That's all. That's a good name. I like that.
The game is $29.99. I'm guessing. I don't know exactly. It's around that price point. $29.99.
It is $29.99. Get your crap together. Jeez.
Now here's the thing, Adam. The game got decent reviews on PSVR 1, and then Skybound Interactive thought, hey, we're going to bring this to PSVR 2. Adam, do you know who Skybound Interactive is?
I don't freaking know.
They're making that game. They're making that game Behemoth that's coming out. But they made The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, so it's a company that. Okay, whatever. It's a company that has their minds wrapped around.
It's got 44% 1 stars. Oh
yeah, no. So let me get into this. So the game's a PSVR 1 port. So don't go into this thinking you're going to be looking at Resident Evil 4.
Not worth it then. Not worth it.
It looks like very sharp, crisp, like early PS3 era graphics, which isn't the worst thing in the world. The game is effectively a stealth game. So if you come into this thinking you're playing Ghost of Tsushima, it's not that. If you go into this thinking you're playing some game where you're hacking and slashing with swords like Gorn, but with samurais, it's not that. This is a game that's like virtual Splinter Cell. It's like virtual Tenchu. The whole point of the thing is to move through levels and not get noticed and take out the enemies as you're going through. Now, there is sword play. You have a little tiny sword and you have a big sword. And
it's just like this podcast. One of us got a big old sword, the other one has a little dinky dagger.
And so what you do is they don't tell you this, I guess, but this is the way it works. And I saw review footage of other people reviewing it. They didn't seem to get it. You block with the little sword, you attack with the big sword, but the sword play is really kind of janky. It's like a last resort because really what you're supposed to be doing is sneaking through these levels, jumping on the roofs, throwing your little ninja stars, or using your bow and arrow and sniping dudes out of the way. You got mechanics where you can you push the joystick up and it'll teleport for you, but the teleport's more like a jump from place to place. You jump from tall grass to tall grass. You got a grappling hook you shoot, which actually feels pretty good, but it only works in certain places. You even have a little pet dog that hangs out with you. And the first thing you do in the game is pick up a ball and throw it, and he fetches it. But you can use the dog to like distract enemies or bite them and hold them in place while you hit them with the sword. The game's pretty simple, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't having fun playing it. This game got a horrible rap People gave it horrible reviews. And I don't think it's quite deserving of that. I've certainly enjoyed. I'm looking forward to getting back into it once I finish some of the other games. I've having a good time now, but the game does have one fatal flaw is the control scheme. The control scheme for this game, when you do VR and you have an analog stick, the movement has one of two ways. You move the analog stick up and it either moves forward where your head is facing or it moves forward where your joystick is pointing. People like different versions of that. This game does neither. The way this game works is you have a body and that body is oriented in some direction. So even if I turn my head and hit forward, it's going to go in the direction my body was facing before I turned my head. So it's very easy to get disoriented. It's very easy to accidentally walk in a diagonal path. I think it's because they're trying to focus on if there is sword fighting, you stay oriented with the enemy so you can move side to side more easily or something. I'm not quite sure what the thought process was behind the controls. It takes a lot of getting used to, but it's not game breaking. And as other reviewers have said, you have to recalibrate your headset for it to work. That's not necessarily true. It's a bad control scheme. It really feels like something they could patch out, and the game would be 2 points better on a scale of 1 to 10. But Adam, you were looking forward to this as like a Ghost of Tsushima type game. Does it make you sad hearing that it's like a stealth action game?
It does. I think you have to be in the right mood for a pure stealth game, like in The Last of Us. Oh dang, I can't believe there's that one PSVR game, Home Sweet Home, like Intruders. Like
Yeah.
regardless of the game you're playing, some stealth is good. Even Resident Evil 4, I like being stealthy, but not the whole time. You really got to either love that mechanic or you got to be in the mood for it. A whole game, nah, not up for it. You've always been way too easy on these games because I guess maybe you have a soul. I don't know. But for $30, there is a reason 40% of the reviews have a 1 star. I don't know what I don't exactly know what it is, but I'm definitely not going to risk it for $30.
I will admit $30 is a lot for the game to come out in this state. Now, people normally rag on games for being like, it looks bad. It doesn't look bad. I think it's got reprojection or something. I don't really notice that too much. The graphics look perfectly fine to me. Very crisp and sharp. Great. That's cool. It feels a bit janky. It feels like a very good $20 game. I'll put it that way. And going back to Ancient Dungeons, $20, it's like the upper limit of what I'd say it'd be worth. It's more like a $15 game. $10, it's a no-brainer. So I think that's kind of where we're looking at those games. Now, the next game, Adam, the third A in our triple A week here, Arizona Sunshine 2. Now, Adam, you and I played Arizona Sunshine 1, and you didn't really like it that much, but we played through the whole thing together. And I kind of thought it was pretty fun, but I recognize
no, I never beat it. Remember, we tried to play together, and it was so broken. I think we gave up. I think you're thinking of that. What was the game where you had the gas mask? Well, that was janked up too. I don't know. Arizona Sunshine sucked. It's your job. I don't think you can convince me that. Of course, you're just go ahead. You like the game, don't you?
No, we'll talk about that later. What did you not like about Arizona Sunshine 1?
Wow. I think it would be quicker to say what did I like because there's very little. I don't think the graphics were bad. I didn't like them, but I didn't think the graphics were bad. And it was on VR. Those are the two positives that it had. Everything else, some negatives? I want
to speak to them so I can let you know if they've been fixed or not. What are your problems with the first one?
The character was abysmal. I wanted to die, so that individual died. I hated the stupid jokes, the bull crap, cliche Western accent, all of that. Is that fixed?
So here's the voice acting. It's kind of a love it or hate it type thing. I will say the writing is more clever, so the things he says are better. And he's given more of a character, like a believable character, rather than like the first game. It was almost like a Duke Nukem type thing of like, oh, he's just saying one-liners. This, there's like a progression, so the story kind of progresses in things he's saying, and you start to realize what it's like to be, how long he's been alone by himself, what that's doing to him mentally, and things like that. So I think the writing's a lot better, the voice acting is a lot better, and what he says is a bit less annoying. And I think you didn't like the whole, calling all the zombies Fred or whatever. there's a bit of charm to it this time around. And I think overall that whole bit of the game is done a lot better this time, and I'm really enjoying that. Yeah.
Okay, I hated the fact that it almost like Resident Evil 4, but even more so, you just traveled from area to area and you get to these points and they just throw 55 zombies at you that you have to kill. That was the gameplay. Is that
So in this, there is a lot of going location location, shooting zombies. It's more like you're shooting zombies on your way, so they'll just kind of be staggering about. And sometimes you decide you want to clear out the area before moving into the room, or sometimes they swarm you. The zombies look a lot better. The shooting of the zombies has a bit more variety to it. Sometimes they have like this bulbous mass on their head that kind of shields them, so just a headshot's not going to do it. Um, then there's other elements that kind of spruce things up, like there's climbing in the game. It works really well. I think almost better than Horizon Call of the Mountain did. So like climbing, platforming in the game. There's a bit of puzzle solving, which is kind of fun, and then there's just some nice set pieces that you go through. So I think there's a bit more variety in the game. But the main piece of the game is yes, going through environments and shooting zombies, and that feels absolutely great. Whereas in the first game it was kind of janky. It's almost like popping balloons when you shot the enemies in the head. This has a much more visceral response when you shoot the enemies. It's juicier and satisfying. And then it's also getting pretty difficult, which is a surprise because the beginning of the game is pretty easy.
That was my other complaint. Arizona Sunshine 1. It was too hard and it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth fighting through the suck. And I mean, do you think it's harder than the first one?
This one's a lot easier than the first one, I'd imagine. I don't recall the first one being that hard, but maybe because I just played in co-op with you a bunch. But this one's it's not as hard. It's much more manageable. The physics is more reliable here. I'm playing in hard mode, and I still find it a bit easy, but I'm at one point that's pretty rough. In hard mode, you don't get the laser sight, which means you really have to aim the guns, and you actually get pretty good at aiming the guns. It's pretty accurate how you have to handle it. Now, the struggle of the gameplay loop is deciding what weapons you want to carry. Right, you got two weapons that sit on your side, and then you can carry one over your shoulder. And you have like four different types of ammunition: shotgun, rifle, pistol, or like flamethrower. And so you're constantly kind of decide like at one point I had a Tommy gun. I freaking loved it. It was awesome. But it used up my pistol ammo. So I had to weigh like, do I want to keep this really good gun that uses pistol ammo, or do I want to get an assault rifle so I can tap into that whole other bank of ammunition I have? Because ammunition management is kind of the name of the game here. Other wrinkle added in, there's a dog now. And this makes things easier for you. If you want to, the dog will kind of warn you if a zombie on the ground is actually going to come to life. The dog can also be used to restrain zombies. So if there's a big guy coming, you want to freeze him in place, you hit the button, aim it at the guy, and the zombie will go and attack him. Hold him in spot while you blast his head off and stuff. So that makes things a bit easier for you. And he does some things like fetching ammo and stuff like that, which isn't game breaking, but it's just kind of nice to have around. And he kind of progresses the plot a little bit.
Okay. My other thing I didn't like about Arizona Sunshine was I paid money for it. And at the point I felt like I got ripped off. This game is Arizona Sunshine 2. This is $60. $60. Do you want to play Final Fantasy 16? It's like 80 hours worth of quality content. Do you want to play any AAA title, any of them? Any of them? Or do you want to play Arizona Sunshine 2?
Now, $60 is a lot. It's a lot for a game, a VR game particularly. There were initial reviews that were ranging a lot. They were coming out saying it was 4 hours long, coming out saying it was 13 hours long. I think I'm probably going to land somewhere at around 6 hours to finish the campaign, just based off how far I am and how much more I have left to go. I think that's a hardy campaign. I'll be interested in probably playing through it again on like an easier mode, or maybe even the harder mode, just to see how bad that is. But there is also full campaign co-op, and there is horde mode, which I think the first game got a lot of mileage out of the horde mode. That's something people enjoyed in the first game. This would probably be pretty fun just because of how good it feels to shoot the zombies. But still, all that and $60. I will say this: the production values are kind of through the roof on this. It's one of the best looking games on PSVR 2. The zombies look great, the environments look great, the weapons feel great, the weapons have a lot of
Resident
variety.
Evil quality?
Okay, not quite Resident Evil quality, Adam. Come on. But I just want to like this. If we're coming close to a AAA VR only game, this is about as close as we can get.
This or
All these other.
Synapse? I'm sitting you down. I was like, Alex, you got 1 hour. You want to play some Arizona Sunshine 2 or Synapse?
Is this assuming I've not played either game, but I know how much I
No,
like?
right now. Let's say
Right.
I sit you down right now.
No, Synapse. Synapse is better, yeah. And Synapse, yeah, it's a better.
And
It's a
guess
better
what?
price.
That wasn't $60. It was
Yeah,
still
no,
like 30 though, right?
Yeah, it's like 30 or 40. It's worth it, whatever it is. But my whole point is that like if you have a little bit extra money to spare, you're looking for a game to buy. Arizona Sunshine is not a bad game, and I don't regret spending $60 on it. But I do think it's probably more in like the 40 to 30 is a good price point for that, which is how these things always work, right? They release like that, then it comes on sale, and then you get it for the price it should be.
So, deviating from this discussion a little bit, I'm assuming you want to finish these before you actually put them on our list, correct? Or are you ready to put any of these on the list?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly need to play Arashi and Ancient Dungeon way more before I can put it on the list. Arizona Sunshine, for me, a lot's riding on like the plot of the game.
Okay.
I say how much I think it's worth it. It's doing pretty good. It's doing really good. So I know now it's like at least top 15, which isn't saying much, but it's at least top 15.
It's better
right
than
now.
Thumper, which is like
I don't know.
33 on our list.
Tough call, yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious, and as you were talking about this, again, we know that you're always so generous on games. When you hear someone talk about a game, either they got a code for it, and so they're going to maybe be nice because they want free codes from people. They're a little biased. They don't want to be mean because they got it for free, or you're a sucker and you paid the $60 and you yourself are forcing you to like it because you spent that much money on it. Which do you think is worse?
Just as if I couldn't be the third option if I spent the money and thought it was worth it. Okay.
It's Arizona Sunshine, man.
I think the second option is the better option here. Because what you're doing is you're putting yourself in the mind of a consumer who bought the game, and whether it's actually good or not, it's how much can they convince themselves they enjoyed that. I felt very similar when I played the game Haze on PlayStation 3. I paid $50, $60 for that when it came out. Everybody hated it, but I found enough of the game to feel justified in my purchase. I don't think it's a bad thing if you can convince yourself that you played the game enough to enjoy it. Now, I will say it. I think that my evaluation carries more weight than somebody who got the code for free because I had to, I put my money where my mouth is, and I'm evaluating these games with the money that I spent on them.
You realize you spent. Now, I know you got Resident Evil 4 from GameStop pretty much for free. You rigged that one. That was nice. That was good job, man. I'm proud of you. But you spent $110 plus tax and Resident Evil 4, which again, you didn't have to pay for that one. You spent a lot of money on VR games this past couple weeks or week.
Yeah. Well, Arizona Sunshine's a game I knew I was going to play. Like, I want to see what these guys are doing.
You could have waited for a sale. $60. I mean, that is appalling. I mean,
here's my thing, Adam. I know not everybody's in this position, but I like to support developers when I can. Developers I believe in.
I like to support the good ones. I'll pay $60 for Resident Evil 4. I did. Capcom, take my money.
So to me, paying $60 for Arizona Sunshine is like $40 for paying for the game, and then $20 is almost like an investment in VR in general. Like, I want these guys to get some money. I want them to. I want this to be a success for the VR ecosystem to some degree. Which I know $20 is a drop in the bucket compared to the development cost of a VR game, but just I can be one extra person adding to that amount. So to that end, I don't feel bad. Like, I'm having a great time. But when all's said and done, like, the time I get and the enjoyment I get out of Arizona Sunshine 2 is going to be well worth the $60 I spent on it. But it is an expensive game. Now, here's the question. Horizon Call of the Mountain or Arizona Sunshine? Those are the two $60 games for PSVR 2. What would you say, Adam? Which one would you go for first?
Well, first of all, I'm not a freaking grade A sucker who bought either one of them. So that's my first answer right there. Neither. But if I had the gosh, that is rough. Do I buy a game that is, in my opinion, a glorified tech demo, or do I play a game that has a little bit of depth, but probably just sucks. Wow. I mean,
Wow.
I'm
I
torn
love
because
this.
the other thing I'm thinking of, if I buy, is this digital or physical version I'm purchasing?
As if it matters. Let's say digital so you
No,
can't sell it.
no, it does. Because if it's physical, I think I could get my money back from Horizon Call of the Mountain or close.
There
So
was
I
never
would.
a physical version. I don't think either game has a physical version, so we're going to say digital.
Oh, Oh, that's rough. Wowzer. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think I would go Arizona Sunshine because I know I'm not playing Horizon Call of the Mountain again. You know, you play it once, you get that 2-3 hours worth of content, and you're done. You're not going back to that. This, there's co-op mode, you know. We can at
And
least
horde
do
mode,
that.
yeah.
So yeah, I feel like Arizona Sunshine would have to take that, but man, it's rough. You're gonna have to really tune into Tokyo for me to make that answer. I mean, that was
It's a tough turd competition, isn't it? Which one? Which
no doubt.
one
I mean, here, so to give people, he's saying top 15. Number 15 is Runner. Then Moss, Red Matter 2, Hubris, Tennis on Court, Humanity, Walkabout, Sea Smash. It's not going to be better than any of those. So,
what I'm thinking is the little bit that I've played of Hubris, I'm pretty sure this is better than Hubris. Like I think that's if we're not factoring in the price, right? Imagine at some point this is
yeah,
gonna be
yeah, I
30
feel
bucks.
like you got to consider the price, though.
But we got to think at some point this game is also going to cost. It's going to be on sale. It's going to cost 30 bucks. Resident Evil 4 is 30 bucks, right? These games go on
You know,
sale.
these games don't go more than 50% off. So,
Oh, but if you wait long enough, they drop down to like $2.
this will not drop to $2. I'll put 5 beans on that. You want to make that bet, big boy?
I know it's not going to drop to $2, Adam. My point is that it's not really fair to place a game on the list at its launch price when we know that's such
That's exactly how we should do it. What is that crap? Are you kidding me? What type of asinine cockamamie bullcrap turds are you smoking?
I'm looking at the game itself. I'm not looking at the economics of the game. It's the economics of owning the game. I think dollar. Okay, even if we factor in the price, dollar for dollar, I'm getting much more out of Arizona Sunshine 2 than I'm getting out of Hubris. Hubris for how good it
Did
can
you
look.
even play Hubris? I was the one who played it.
I've played it. I haven't played all of it, but I've played it. Hubris is a relatively flat game in terms of the experience.
I'll give you that. I agree. Yeah.
And this has a little bit more depth to it. Like, is there anything in the story of Hubris that you think is worth mentioning?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, this has a little bit of depth to it in terms of story. It has a bit of depth to it in terms of like strategy in the gameplay and weapons.
Here's
management.
the question: can you see the man's thighs? You play as a man, correct?
Yeah, you do. You can't see his thighs now.
I thought that's why you were into it. Okay, then I don't know. I'm beat. I'll be interested. Finish it. I'll be interested to see. Where you put it. Above Hubris, we've got Tennis on Court at 11, which I know you haven't played. We have Humanity at 10. I want you to finish Humanity. I know you would love it, but you're not going to. This is PSVR 2's Astrobot, a game you say you like and you think is great, but you're just never going to finish it. You're just not going to do it.
Adam, do you know why I don't finish these games? It's because I'm the only one who plays these games, because I'm the only one who will actually buy a game.
That is bull. I could go down here and there. So we have obviously a list of the game, who reviewed it, what date, and then if it was guilty, hung, or non-guilty verdict. There's a lot of Adam under this reviewer.
How many of those games did you pay for?
Hey, I paid for some of them. All right. Now, do you buy more than I do? Probably, but you keep buying these stupid freaking crap. Like, go down here. Awesome Asteroids. Freaking.
That was like $2.
Oh, was it? Okay. Travel the Words.
That was also like $5. I like word searches, so it wasn't
budget cuts.
I already had that. That was a free upgrade.
Okay. So see, a lot of these you haven't paid for. Now, this week you kicked my butt. I don't know what. The thing is, every game I buy, I don't like. That's my issue.
Yeah, your issue is you hate a game if you have to pay money for it.
That's not. I love Resident Evil. Love it. I like Gran Turismo 7. Great game. I love Crossfire. I paid for that. Pavlov paid for that. Love it. It's not true. And anything when I guess when I buy it, I'm actually the opposite of what I said before. I'm more strict when I buy it. I don't know. I don't get it, dude. You think it's funny. I don't know what you're laughing at, but
You're trying to come to reason with yourself as to how you feel about a game after you purchase it. It's just, I love watching it. It's great listening to you dive into your own mind and try to figure out what in the world you think and why you think it.
it's before your eyes. I bought that. I mean, I can go down. I can just go down the list here. I
We
don't
didn't
get.
buy before your eyes. We got a code for it. We got like three codes.
I didn't buy that.
I don't think so. I think we got codes for it. I know we gave one code away,
I thought we only got one code. Yeah,
and I bought it.
I thought I bought it too.
Okay, well,
I don't
guess
know. Next time we have Christmas and we have these games that we need to rank, it's going to be a fun episode next time.
yeah, it'll be fun episode next time. That's it then, Adam. You got any last words before I take us out?
Vegetarian hot lunch.
Thank you for getting us demonetized right out of the gate on this episode, Adam. And thank you, listeners, for listening to episode 138 of Play PSVR 2, the podcast. Please email us at contact@playpsvr.com. We might read it on the podcast. Everybody, you'll be famous for that. Follow us on Twitter. We are at gaming. Is it 2 underscores or 1 underscore, Adam? At gaming court.
1 underscore.
Gaming underscore court. Looks like 2, but it's probably 1. Subscribe to us on YouTube and leave us a comment about how cool we look. That channel is Gaming is in Session. And if you're already subscribed to us, go ahead and hit us up on the iTunes. Leave us a review. We love to see them because if we see them, your auntie sees them. And if she sees them, then she'll have something to do while you play Resident Evil 4 all Christmas break. And that's it. For Adam, I'm Alex, and this has been Play PSVR 2, the podcast, where virtual reality is our reality.
Blammo!